Well, it's here. I told you I was gonna buy one. I wanted to check one of these out because obviously I have made a lot of videos on the PlayStation Classic. And to be fair, they have not all been negative like some people like to say they have been. If you watch my initial video on the PlayStation Classic, I was very excited for this thing. I love plug-and-play systems, I love retro games, and honestly, I love the PS1. The PS1 has such an awesome library of games, and I was very, very excited when this thing was first announced. And of course, we got a myriad of bad information on this thing. There's PAL games on here, the interface looks like it sucks, but I figured I had to buy one of these. The homeless man had to get his dirty mitts on a PlayStation Classic to review it for you guys, because I don't think it would be fair for me to just bash the thing without actually picking it up. Well, the day is here, so we're gonna unbox this thing, we're gonna play around with it, and we're gonna see if the PlayStation Classic is really that bad, if this is one of the biggest gaming disappointments of 2018. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because obviously I love you guys if I'm wasting my money on this thing, and let's open up and look at the PlayStation Classic.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my god, it's Stevie Richards! Alright, so here's the box for the PlayStation Classic. I will say the box itself is kind of nice, like it's not the worst thing in the world, but I do have a complaint, because when I went to take off the sticker for it, it ripped off the top of the color here, so you could see that. Obviously, this was very cheaply done. Taking a look at the back of the box here, you have all the different games that are available on this thing. Yeah, definitely leaves a bit to be desired in terms of games. I will say this box is a lot heavier than I thought it would be. I guess because maybe there's two controllers in here. That could add some weight, and it doesn't even really want to come out of the box right now. There we go. Alright, so, you know, minimalistic. I think that's the running theme for this system, very minimalistic. So let's open her up here, and here is the PlayStation Classic. Nice and tiny. I do like it, you know, the buttons are clicky. Obviously, you have to use the buttons to get to the menu system and get to, you know, switching discs on games like Metal Gear and Final Fantasy, but, you know, it's not the worst looking thing in the world. Looks alright. Open her up here. God, this packaging. They spent like more on this inner boxing than I think actually designing the system. Because I don't even feel like Sony made the system themselves. Here are the controllers. You get two controllers, no power adapter though for the actual system though. I mean, the controllers don't feel that bad, honestly. All these buttons, if they couldn't map something so that I could go to a home menu easily. You have the HDMI cable, and then you have the USB thing, so you need a power brick, but we have a million different power bricks for different USB plug-and-play systems, so, you know, it's the PlayStation Classic. Like, it's a small PlayStation with a bunch of built-in games on it. Pretty much what we expected from this. You have the faux memory card slot, that's where you put in your controllers. I really hope they hack this thing at some point in time. I'm sure they will, and then I will be able to get real enjoyment out of this thing. But of course, now it's the D-Day. Now it is time to actually play with the PlayStation Classic. So let's go ahead and boot this up and see just how great it actually is, boys and girls. So upon booting up the PlayStation Classic, it allows you to choose your language, it then shows you pretty much how the system works in terms of switching discs and saving, and then you are thrust into the beautiful menu system that we have talked about. Now, of course, the menu system has been said that it was very lackluster, but honestly, it's one of those things you kind of have to see it and experience it for yourself to believe it, just how boring it is. There's no music, there's nothing going on. You literally just go through and look at a thumbnail of the cover art of the games to choose your game. It's very boring. You go into the settings, there's really nothing going on. Of course, there's no scan lines, there's no CRT filters, there's no border stretching, there's no borders to put on the games. It's all stuff that we've talked about on this channel before, but still, just actually experiencing it and actually seeing how there's nothing to this system aside from just games on a system, it's just really disappointing. So I decided the first game I wanted to check out was Tekken 3. Tekken 3 is a game that I actually enjoy. I don't think it's as good as a Virtua Fighter series, but I enjoyed the Tekken series on the PlayStation. Now, of course, there's the whole whole thing that this is the PAL version of Tekken 3. There are 9 games on this system that utilize the PAL version of the games. And a lot of people said at first, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You won't, notice a difference or anything, but Jesus Lord, good God Almighty. The second you play Tekken 3, if you've ever played Tekken 3 before and playing it on the PlayStation Classic, you immediately notice a huge difference in terms of the speed of the game. It's almost like you popped a Xanax and then you decided to play Tekken 3. Like, it's so slow, it's so muddy, all the graphics don't look that good, the colors don't pop. They really did absolutely nothing to this, and considering that it's an open source emulator, they actually could have done a lot with this game. They could have spruced up the colors, they could have done different things like sharpen the game itself, but the input lag on this game is just astronomical. Like, it really feels like you're playing the game underwater. You know how when you played the underwater thing with Doral in Virtua Fighter, it feels like that. Like, it's just not good. It's not crisp. It's not responsive. It doesn't feel like Tekken 3 should feel. And considering Tekken 3 was one of the most graphically pleasing games on the original PlayStation in terms of 3D effects and things like that, it's just so disappointing to see what Tekken 3 has become. Like, it's just this bastardized version of Tekken 3 that's just not fun. The next game I decided to check out was Twisted Metal, because that was a game that I used to have a lot of fun playing with a buddy of mine named Pedro, who had a PlayStation 1 and Twisted Metal. And of course, I knew that some nostalgia would go into this. I knew that it probably wouldn't look as good as it looked when I was a kid, because Twisted Metal isn't a series that I followed for a while. But playing it, I noticed something, and it was very, very weird. There was substantial input lag. I thought at one point in time that my Sweet Tooth driver had died or something, and I was like, but I still have health. And it was just like I was pushing up to move and it wasn't moving, and I was like, did my controller become unplugged? This isn't even a game that is one of the PAL games on this system. Why is it running so bad? It just did not feel right. There was still input lag with this game, and I was like, there's not supposed to be input lag with this game. It is Twisted Metal. This is a game that is the American version of the game. It should be running fine, but it doesn't. It doesn't feel smooth. It doesn't feel like Twisted Metal should. Twisted Metal was a fast-paced car combat game that was a lot of fun back in the day, and it still should be somewhat fun if the controls worked, but I just felt like the controls were non-responsive half the time, and it just really blew my mind how sluggish everything felt. The next game I decided to check out on the PlayStation Classic was actually the game I had the most fun with, and it's probably one of the more simple games on the system, but it's actually a definite highlight of this system for me in just how it actually works. It actually looks somewhat decent, and that is Rayman. Rayman, of course, was a 2D side-scrolling platformer. It was a really fun game on the Jaguar. It was a really fun game on the PS1, and honestly, Rayman actually felt good. This felt like a game that belonged on the system. It looked good enough. It played well. There was no issues with input lag or anything like that, and I actually had some semblance of fun playing Rayman. I was like, you know what? Rayman is a gem on this system. Rayman is a definite bright spot, and I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this game, and maybe there's other games on here I'll enjoy, but there really wasn't. Next up, I decided to look at the racing game on the system, Ridge Racer Type 4, the traditional racing game on the system, and just Good lord, why does this look so bad? Like, I understand these are PS1 games. I understand that there's going to be issues in terms of polygons and things like that. The PlayStation 1 was a very unique time, along with the Sega Saturn and the N64, sort of this rise of 3D graphics. But I play games like Daytona USA on the Sega Saturn all the time, and the colors still look nice. The colors still look crisp. Yes, there's a ton of pop-up. Yes, the game might not be all that smooth, but Ridge Racer just felt horrible. Like, it felt sluggish once again, and I can't figure out why. All of the colors look very muted, and you really see that across all of the games. I noticed that a lot in Tekken 3 as well. Like, the colors just feel so bland and muted and blend together, and it's like, this isn't what the PlayStation was indicative of. Yes, a lot of PlayStation 1 games have not aged all that well, let's be honest. Same thing with the Sega Saturn, same thing with the N64, but they're still playable games. You can still enjoy these games, and they're not supposed to, like, look this bad. Everything just looks like crap on this system, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why everything looks so bad when you're using an emulator, an open source emulator. The whole point of emulation is to improve upon things and play these classic games with abilities to improve upon things. Ridge Racer Type 4, though, just looks terrible, and it plays okay. Like, the controls aren't all that bad, but the frame rate just seems very sluggish. The game doesn't have any sort of sense of speed whatsoever. And I remember playing Gran Turismo 2. I could fire up Gran Turismo 2 on my PS1 right now and definitely get a better sense of speed than I'm getting at Ridge Racer Type 4 on the PlayStation Classic. And then finally, I decided to take a look at Cool Borders 2, another damn near unplayable game on this system because it is the PAL version of the game. You just play it and you're like, this is the epitome of the system. This is the epitome of the PlayStation Classic. This perfectly defines the PlayStation Classic. It's lazy. It is a lazy system and they just completely messed it up. It's absolute trash. There's so much input lag. The game runs slow because it's the PAL version of the game, and it's noticeable. That's the biggest problem to me, is how noticeable all these things are. The PlayStation Classic is an iconic system. It is an awesome system. This is not representative of the PlayStation Classic. I don't want to play Metal Gear and Resident Evil on this system when it's so sluggish and there's so many issues and the colors are muted and there's input lag on pretty much every game I played aside from Rayman. It's just, it's such a damn shame because the PlayStation Classic could have been a great celebration of the original PlayStation. Yes, I understand these games haven't aged all that well, but I did not expect this PlayStation Classic to be as bad as it is. It is honestly absolute trash. I don't recommend anyone buy this. Yes, it'll eventually be hacked, and I'm sure that hackers will put better versions of emulators and ROMs on here that will actually, or ISOs, that will make the games run better and they'll look better, and maybe we'll even get borders and things like that, which would be actually nice, you know, get some different filters. But as the system stands right now, do not waste your money on it. I am so disappointed. I went into this with such low expectations, and somehow, some way, they managed to be even lower now. I will probably never play this thing again until they hack it, because honestly, it's just not fun. It's not the PlayStation we remember. It's not the PlayStation we grew up with. Technically speaking, the controllers in themselves are fine. You know, the actual build of the controllers, the actual build of the system, it's fine. It's just the emulation on there is so piss poor that it drags down the whole experience. So those are my thoughts on the PlayStation Classic. An absolute waste of $100, but you know, whatever. I had to review it for you guys. I had to showcase it off because it was something that I just didn't think it could be as bad as people were making it out to be, but somehow it's actually worse. I think people were actually too kind with this system because it's absolute garbage. But let me know in the comments section down below if you plan on picking up a PlayStation Classic because you just like to waste money and you don't really care about wasting $100, because that's the only reason I can think. You're better off just like burning $100 than buying one of these systems. I'm going to be completely honest with you, until they hack it. Once they hack it, maybe I'll have some fun with it. And as always, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to check out the meltdown of the PlayStation Classic, the other videos I've done on it, just sort of the descent into madness with this system, and check out other videos on the channel. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.